My child, stop what you are doing right now. Yes, you. I am interrupting this moment deliberately and with great urgency because what I have to say to you today is something you have needed to hear for a very long time, and I will not allow another day to pass without speaking it directly into your spirit. This is not a coincidence that brought you here. This is not a random moment and a random day. I orchestrated this. I arranged every detail that led you to this exact place because there is a word burning in my heart for you. A word that is going to dismantle something that has been limiting you, silencing you, shrinking you, and keeping you from walking in the fullness of everything I created you to carry. And I need you to hear it with everything you have. I need you to open every part of yourself to what I am about to say, because it is going to change the way you see yourself, the way you carry your story, and the way you step into the purpose I have been preparing you for through every difficult season of your life. You have been apologizing for your pain. I need you to sit with that for a moment because I want you to recognize how deeply and how consistently you have been doing it. You have been apologizing for your pain in ways that are so habitual, so automatic, so deeply woven into the fabric of how you move through the world that you may not even fully recognize it as apologizing anymore. It has simply become the way you exist, the way you show up, the way you present yourself to others, and even to me. You apologize when you need too much. When the weight you are carrying spills over the edges of what you can manage alone and you have to reach out for help, you feel the need to preface it with an apology. I am sorry for bothering you. I'm sorry this is so heavy. I am sorry I cannot just handle this on my own. You apologize for the size of your need as though needing is itself a failure, as though the depth of your struggle is evidence of something fundamentally broken in you that should embarrass you, rather than something human and real and entirely understandable. Given what you have been through, you apologize when you are still grieving something that others have decided you should be over by now, when the loss is still present in you, still shaping your days, still coloring the way you see the world, and you sense that the people around you have moved on and are waiting for you to catch up. You begin to apologize for the pace of your healing. I am sorry I am not over this yet. I am sorry I am still struggling with this. I am sorry my grief is taking so long, as though grief has a deadline. As though healing follows a schedule that other people get to set for you. As though the depth of your mourning is an inconvenience that requires your apology rather than a sacred process that requires their patience. You apologize when you speak about what you have been through. When you share your story, the difficult parts, the painful parts, the parts that reveal the depth of what you have endured, you hedge it, you minimize it. You add qualifiers that shrink the reality of your experience to make it more comfortable for the listener. You say things like it was not that bad, or other people have it worse, or I probably should not complain. You preemptively apologize for the weight of your own story, as though your suffering is something that needs to be made smaller before it can be offered in conversation. As though the truthfulness of your pain is something that requires a disclaimer. And you have been doing all of this, my child, because somewhere along the way someone or something taught you that your pain was too much, that it was inconvenient, that it took up too much space. That the appropriate response to suffering was to manage it quietly, to minimize it publicly, to carry it alone rather than bring it into relationship with others in its full and honest weight. Someone communicated to you, directly or indirectly, that your pain made you a burden, that your struggle made you less, that the appropriate posture for someone who has been through what you have been through was not honest. Acknowledgement, but careful containment, and today I am telling you that every single one of those messages was a lie. A lie from the enemy who understood that if he could get you to apologize for your pain, he could get you to deny its purpose. If he could get you to minimize your suffering, he could prevent you from understanding its significance. If he could get you to treat your wounds as weaknesses to be hidden rather than qualifications to be recognized, he could keep you from stepping into the very calling that your pain has been preparing you to carry. That is the strategy. Keep the person apologizing for what God has been using. Keep them ashamed of what heaven has been building with. Keep them small about the very thing that makes them uniquely equipped for their assignment. I am ending that strategy today with what I am speaking into your spirit right now. Your pain is not a disqualification. It is your greatest qualification. I need you to hear that not as a comforting platitude, but as a theological reality, as a statement about how my kingdom operates, as a description of the pattern I have used throughout all of history to prepare the people I call to the most significant assignments. The ones I use most powerfully are not the ones who sailed through life without difficulty. They are the ones who walked through the deepest waters and came out on the other side knowing things that can only be learned by going through rather than going around. They are the ones whose scars became their credentials, whose wounds became their wisdom, whose suffering became the very source of their authority to speak into the lives of others who are walking through similar darkness. Think about Moses. He did not lead the Israelites out of Egypt because his life had been easy. He led them because his life had been a comprehensive preparation for exactly that assignment. He was born into a people under oppression and then raised in the house of the oppressor. He understood both worlds. He knew the weight of bondage from the inside because his people carried it. He knew the structure of power from the inside because he had lived within it. The peculiar combination of experiences that his painful and complicated history produced in him was not an accident. It was the precise preparation for leading a people out of a system he had intimate knowledge of from both sides. His pain was his qualification. His complicated story was not a liability to be apologized for. It was the exact credential required for the task I set before him. Think about David. He did not write the Psalms that have comforted millions of grieving hearts across thousands of years from a place of comfort and ease. He wrote them from caves, from exile, from the crushing weight of being hunted by a king who wanted him dead, from the devastating aftermath of his own moral failures and their consequences. He wrote them from the middle of genuine anguish, genuine fear, genuine despair. And it is precisely because they were written from that place that they still reach into the darkest corners of human experience and find people there and say, I know this darkness too, and I found God in it, and so can you. David's pain was his qualification. His suffering produced an intimacy with me and an honesty before me that became the most enduring collection of spiritual literature in human history. He did not apologize for the rawness of what he felt. He brought it before me fully, and I met him in it fully, and the result has been blessing to generations. Think about Paul. Before he became the apostle who planted churches across the known world, who wrote letters that became scripture, who suffered imprisonment and shipwreck and beatings and rejection with a joy that confounded everyone around him. He was Saul. He was a man whose pre-conversion life was marked by violence and religious arrogance and complicity in the persecution of the very people he would later give his life to serve. And then his encounter with me on the road to Damascus did not erase that history. It transformed it. The passion that had driven him to persecute became the passion that drove him to proclaim. The intensity that had made him a feared enforcer became the intensity that made him an unstoppable messenger. The knowledge of religious systems that he had used as weapons became the knowledge he used to dismantle the arguments that stood against the gospel. His pain, his complicated past, his failures, and his complicity in things that were genuinely wrong, none of it disqualified him. All of it qualified him for an assignment that required exactly what his particular history had produced. And you, my child, are no different. The pain you have been apologizing for is the very material I have been using to build the qualification for your assignment. Every difficult season, every devastating loss, every night of weeping, every betrayal that broke your trust, every failure that left you ashamed, every moment of darkness where you felt absolutely alone and absolutely unsure whether you would make it through. All of it has been the curriculum of your preparation. All of it has been adding to the credential that makes you uniquely suited for what I am calling you to do. Uniquely equipped to reach the people I am sending you to reach. Uniquely positioned to speak into the specific darkness that your own journey has given you intimate knowledge of. I want to speak specifically about the pain that has shamed you the most. The pain you are most reluctant to name out loud because you fear what it says about you. The pain that comes not just from what was done to you, but from what you yourself have done. From the choices you made that led to consequences you are still living with. From the failures that you cannot seem to fully forgive yourself for even after you have brought them before me and received my forgiveness. That pain, the pain tangled with shame and self-recrimination and the ongoing internal trial where you keep convicting yourself of what I have already acquitted you of, that pain has a purpose too. The person who has walked through genuine failure and come out on the other side of it knows something that the person who has not failed cannot offer. They know the texture of shame from the inside. They know how the enemy uses past mistakes to imprison people in a present where they cannot receive grace because they cannot believe they deserve it. They know the specific cruelty of self-condemnation, the way the internal voice can be more relentless and more damaging than any external accuser. And because they know these things from the inside, they can reach the people who are living in them with a kind of understanding and a kind of authority that no amount of theological training can produce. Your failures did not disqualify you. They equipped you to reach the ones who are drowning in their own failures and desperately need someone who can say, "I have been where you are, and I found grace there, and so can you." Stop apologizing for that. Stop treating your past failures as evidence that you are less than, as wounds that need to be hidden, as parts of your story that must be minimized before you can show up in the lives of others. They are part of your qualification. They are the part that makes your grace credible, that makes your testimony compelling, that makes the people who are struggling in the same darkness believe that what you found on the other side of it might be available to them too. Now I want to speak about the pain that came from what others did to you, the wounds you did not choose and did not deserve and did not have any say in, the abuse that happened when you were too young to protect yourself, the abandonment that came from people whose job it was to stay, the cruelty that was visited on you by someone who should have been safe, the systematic diminishment that happened over a long season in a relationship or an environment that slowly eroded your sense of worth and your belief in your own value. The trauma that lives in your body even now, that shows up uninvited in certain situations, that has shaped the way you move through the world in ways you are sometimes not even fully aware of. I know you have felt shame about all of this too. Not just grief and anger, though those are real and legitimate, but shame. The strange, irrational, deeply painful shame that trauma survivors often carry, the sense that what happened to them somehow reflects on who they are, that being the recipient of someone else's violence or cruelty or neglect says something about their worth or their desirability or their right to take up space in the world. That shame is one of the enemy's most effective and most vicious lies. And I am naming it directly today so that you can recognize it for what it is and refuse to carry it a single day longer. What was done to you does not define you. It does not diminish your worth. It does not reduce your value in my eyes by a single fraction. What happened to you was real, and it was wrong, and it caused damage that deserved to be acknowledged and mourned and healed. But it was not a verdict on who you are. It was not a reflection of your worth. It was not something you caused or deserved or brought on yourself by anything that was in your power to change. It happened to you. And what happens to people does not determine their value. I determine your value. And I have declared it clearly and permanently and without condition. You are precious. You are worthy. You are deeply and completely loved. Nothing that was done to you changes that declaration. And what was done to you, as devastating as it was, has also become part of your qualification. Not because suffering is good in itself. Not because I caused what happened to you or willed it in the sense of desiring it, but because I am the God who takes what the enemy meant for your destruction and transforms it into the very tool of your purpose. The depth of pain you have survived has given you a capacity for compassion that cannot be manufactured. The trauma you have walked through has given you an understanding of what it feels like to be broken, that allows you to sit with broken people in ways that those who have not been broken cannot offer. The healing you have found, imperfect and ongoing as it is, has become a testimony that points others toward the same healing. Your wound is your credential for the wounded. Your survival is your message to those who are not sure they will survive. Your healing is your testimony to those who have not yet found theirs, and none of it would be available for those purposes if you had not gone through it. Which means that the very pain you have been apologizing for is the very thing that makes your ministry, your presence, your voice, your life relevant and powerful and desperately needed in the lives of the specific people I am sending you to reach. I need to speak now about the way apologizing for your pain has been affecting your prayers. Because when you minimize your suffering, when you preface your requests to me with disclaimers and apologies about the size of your need, you approach my throne with a smallness that was never what I intended. You come to me as though you are not sure you have the right to ask for what you need, as though your pain is not quite significant enough to warrant my full attention, as though you should be grateful for whatever small portion of grace comes your way, rather than coming boldly, as my word invites you to come to the throne of grace where you can find help in your time of need. My child, your need is not too big for me. Your pain is not too heavy for my presence. Your grief is not an imposition on my time. You do not need to apologize for the size of what you are carrying before you bring it to me. You do not need to minimize your need before you lay it at my feet. You do not need to make your request smaller than it is to make it more appropriate to bring before me. Come with the full weight of it. Come with the unedited, unmanaged, unminimized truth of where you are and what you need. Come in the full reality of your pain and let me meet you there with the full reality of my power and my love and my willingness to move on your behalf. The boldness I am asking you to develop in prayer is directly connected to your willingness to stop apologizing for your pain. When you begin to see your pain as something that qualified you rather than something that disqualifies you, when you begin to bring the full weight of your need before me without the preface of apology, you will find that your prayers carry a new kind of authority. The prayer of someone who knows they have been through something real, who comes before me without minimizing the reality of their suffering, who asks with the boldness of someone who understands that my compassion is not rationed and my power is not limited, and my willingness to move on behalf of my children is not diminished by the size of the request. That prayer carries weight that the apologetic, minimized, hedged prayer cannot carry. I am asking you to pray differently from this day forward. Not with arrogance, not with a sense of entitlement that comes from pride, but with the holy boldness that comes from knowing who I am and knowing how I feel about you and knowing that the pain you have been through has qualified you to ask for things that match the depth of what you have endured and the magnitude of what I have promised. Stop apologizing in your prayers. Stop shrinking your requests. Stop coming to me with your need already minimized as though you are afraid I will find it too much. I will not find it too much. I am not overwhelmed by your need. I am moved by it, and I am ready to respond to it with the fullness of my power and the completeness of my love. Now I want to speak about what it is going to look like in your daily life to stop apologizing for your pain. Because this is not just a spiritual posture. It is a practical shift in how you show up in every space you inhabit. It is a change in how you speak about yourself, how you present your story, how you receive the responses of others to what you have been through, how you occupy the space that is rightfully yours in the rooms you walk into. When someone asks how you are doing and the honest answer is not fine, I am calling you to stop reflexively saying fine anyway. I am not asking you to pour your deepest wounds on every casual acquaintance. Wisdom still matters in discerning what you share and with whom. But I am asking you to stop performing wellness that does not exist. Stop maintaining the facade of having it together when you do not. Stop protecting others from the truth of your experience at the cost of your own honesty and your own need for genuine connection. The people who are safe enough to receive the truth of where you are deserve to hear it, and you deserve the experience of being known honestly and loved anyway. When you speak about what you have been through, whether in personal conversation or in the larger spaces where your testimony might reach more people, I am calling you to stop minimizing it. Stop adding the disclaimers that shrink the reality of your experience. Stop comparing your suffering to others as a way of arguing yourself out of your right to acknowledge it. Your pain does not have to be the worst pain anyone has ever experienced to be worth naming. Your suffering does not have to win some competition of hardship to be real and significant and worthy of honest acknowledgement. What you went through was real. It affected you deeply. It shaped you profoundly. And speaking that truth is not complaining. It is bearing witness to your own life. And bearing witness to your own life is the foundation of the testimony that I will use to reach others. When others respond to your story with minimization, when they tell you it could have been worse, or that others have it harder, or that you should be over it by now, I am calling you to stop agreeing with them. Stop using their minimization as permission to minimize yourself. Their inability to fully hold the weight of your story is a limitation in them, not an accurate assessment of your story. You do not have to agree with their reduction of your experience. You do not have to validate their discomfort with your pain by pretending your pain is less than it is. You can receive their perspective with grace and still hold the truth of your own experience without apology. And I'm calling you to stop apologizing for the ways your pain has changed you. The ways you are different now than you were before the difficult seasons. The ways your wiring has shifted. The ways your priorities have reordered. The ways your capacity for certain things has changed. The ways your need for certain kinds of space and certain kinds of relationship has evolved. Those changes are not damage. They are adaptations. They are the evidence of a person who survived something real and emerged from it different in ways that are actually often more aligned with who I made you to be than the person you were before the suffering began to do its refining work. My child, I want to speak now about the people I am sending you to, because the reason your pain is a qualification is not just about you, it is about them. There are people on the other side of your willingness to own your story. People who are living right now in the same darkness you survived. People who are in the middle of the same kind of pain you have been through. People who desperately need someone who has been where they are and came out the other side to show them that coming out the other side is possible. Those people cannot be reached by someone whose life has been comfortable. They cannot be reached by someone who offers them theological answers from a place of theoretical knowledge rather than lived experience. They cannot be reached by someone who has never sat in the specific kind of darkness they are sitting in, who has never felt the specific weight they are carrying, who has never cried the specific tears they are crying. They need someone who knows, someone who has been there, someone whose understanding of their pain is not academic but intimate, someone who can sit with them in it without flinching, because they have already faced it themselves and survived. That person is you. The pain you have been apologizing for is the very thing that makes you that person for them. Your survival is their hope. Your healing is their roadmap. Your willingness to stop hiding what you have been through and to speak honestly about it, to stop apologizing for it and to begin to own it as the qualification it truly is the very thing that will give them the courage to believe that they too can survive, that they too can be healed, that they too can find purpose on the other side of their pain. You are not carrying your story for yourself alone. You have never been carrying it for yourself alone. From the beginning, I knew the specific people your specific story would reach. I knew the specific darkness your specific experience would give you authority to speak into. I knew the specific comfort your specific survival would offer to those who were still in the middle of what you have already walked through. And none of that reaching, none of that authority, none of that comfort becomes available as long as you are apologizing for the story and minimizing the pain and hiding the wound under a performance of having it all together. The world does not need your performance. The people I am sending you to do not need your curated presentation. They need your truth. They need your honesty. They need the real, unedited, unapologetic account of what you have been through and how you found me in the middle of it and what happened when I met you in the darkest place of your experience. They need the unminimized version, the one you have been too ashamed to offer, the one you have been too afraid would be too much, the one you have been apologizing for before anyone even had a chance to respond to it. Stop apologizing. Start testifying. There is a profound difference between the two, and I am calling you to make the shift today. Apologizing for your pain keeps it in the category of something shameful, something to be managed, something to be minimized before it can be offered. Testifying about your pain places it in the category of something purposeful, something that points toward my faithfulness, something that gives others access to the same grace that brought you through. Your pain is your testimony. Your survival is your message. Your healing, ongoing and imperfect as it is the most compelling argument for my faithfulness that you could ever offer to the world. And the world desperately needs that argument right now. The people around you, the ones I have placed in your specific life, in your specific context, they need to see what I can do with a broken person who stops apologizing and starts trusting. They need to witness the transformation that happens when someone owns their story instead of hiding it. When someone brings their full, unedited need before me instead of the sanitized version. When someone steps into the authority of their qualification instead of shrinking under the weight of their shame. I am calling you to that stepping in today. Not someday when you feel more healed or more ready or more worthy. Today, in whatever state you are currently in, with whatever degree of healing you have currently experienced, with whatever combination of strength and fragility you are currently carrying. I am calling you to step into the authority of your qualification right now, because the people I am sending you to cannot wait for a version of you that has arrived at some imagined state of complete wholeness. They need the version of you that exists right now, the one that has been through something real and is still in the process and is still learning, and is still healing and is still trusting and is still showing up in faith. Even when showing up costs everything, that version of you is enough. That version of you is exactly what they need. That version of you is the most powerful witness to my grace that you could possibly offer them, because your wholeness in process is more compelling than anyone's performance of arrival. Your honesty about where you are is more useful to them than anyone's pretense of having it all figured out. Your willingness to show up with your scars visible is more healing to them than anyone's presentation of a life without scars. So I say to you again, with all the tenderness and all the authority that I carry, stop apologizing for your pain. It is not a disqualification. It is your greatest qualification. Own your story. Speak your truth. Bring the full weight of your need before me without preface or apology. Step into the authority that your survival has produced. Testify to what I have done and am doing in the middle of your hardest seasons. And watch what happens when the qualification you have been apologizing for begins to do the work I always intended it to do in the lives of the people I am sending you to reach. You are qualified, my child. Not despite your pain. Because of it. Not in spite of your wounds. Through them. Not around your story, in it. Every difficult season, every devastating loss, every night of weeping, every failure, every wound, every scar. All of it, qualification, all of it, credential, all of it. The specific, irreplaceable, uniquely yours equipment for the specific, irreplaceable, uniquely yours assignment I have been preparing you for through every moment of your life. Stop apologizing for it. Start walking in it. The world is waiting for what your pain has produced in you, and I am ready to release it through you the moment you stop minimizing the gift and start offering it without apology. Type, Amen if you are done apologizing for your pain and ready to walk in the authority of your story. Share this word with someone who has been hiding their wounds instead of walking in their qualification. They need to know that God called their pain their greatest credential.